We're looking at 5.4, which is division properties of exponents. First property we're going to be looking at is dividing powers with the same base. So if you will look here, when we have a base here, when we have bases that are similar, all we have to do is subtract the exponents to get the answer. Notice we do not divide the bases. If the bases are numerals and they have exponents, you do not divide the bases. You simply subtract those two exponents and you get your answer. For example, 2 to the 6 over 2 to the second, you do not divide 2 by 2 and get 1. You leave the base the same and you subtract the exponents. It's 2 to the 4th, which is going to be 16. Okay. Here we've got 4 minus 7, which is negative 3, and the negative means to put it on the bottom. So it's 1 over x3. Here we have some fractions to keep it interesting. We have 3/4 minus 1/2. That's 3/4 minus 2/4, which is 1/4. Okay, that is the first property we're going to look at. The second property is raising a quotient to the power, and it is similar to something we've already done. We have a quotient here. We have a power here. You just distribute the power inside the quotient. So the power gets distributed to everything on the top, everything on the bottom. Okay, in this case, there's only one thing on top and one thing on the bottom, and so the power would go on the A and the M. So if we have 3/5 to the third, that is 3 to the third over 5 to the third, and that is 27 over 125. If I have x over y to the fifth, that is the same as x to the fifth over y to the fifth. These are not the same bases, so you cannot subtract these. This is simplest form here. X over y to the 1/2 is simply x to the 1/2 over y to the 1/2. And remember, a 2 in the denominator here means it's a square root. Not that we have to really know that for this, but just a reminder. X to the negative 1, okay, is basically you distribute that, you get x to the negative 1 over y to the negative 1. They need to switch places. Okay, so if it's on the outside of the parentheses, negative 1, just flip it. Flip the fraction. And those are the two properties we're going to be dealing with today. The first set of examples we're going to look at is completing the equation. We've done this before. We have not done it with division, but it's just as easy with division as you'll see. To get this exponent here, we simply subtract these. So 8 minus 3 is 5. So you would write 5 for your answer. So that is 4 to the 5th. Okay, let's go to number 2. This one's a little more difficult because you have a fraction. Okay, and this is 11/5. This is 2. So we want to put that over 5. So 2, change it to something over 5 is 10/5. 10/5 is equal to 2. So 11/5 minus 10/5 is simply 1/5. Okay, 1/5. Again, I just made that 10/5 so that we would have common denominators when we subtracted. So 5 to the 1/5. And again, that's a 5th root of 5. Not that we have to evaluate that. Okay, here we have 4 minus 9, which is going to be a negative 5. Negative 5. And remember, negative in the future when we start simplifying these means to put it in the bottom, put it in the denominator. Okay, the last one of this section, I'm going to do the top. I've got x to the 7 on top. I've got x to the 9 on bottom. 7 minus 9 gives me negative 2. Negative 2. And that is about as good as it gets with completing the equations. For this section, we are simply going to simplify the expressions. It's what we're used to doing anyway, except it's division today. Okay, so let's look at this. We've got 4 to the 6 over 4 squared. The bases stay the same. And I'm writing crooked. And then 6 minus 2 is simply 4. 4 to the 4th. If I really want to do that 4 times 4 is 16. 16 times 16 should be 256. So I get 256 for an answer. Okay. Here, 13 minus 18 should be negative 5. So I get x to the negative 5. And that tells me to put it in the denominator. Flip it. So it's 1 over x to the 5th for our answer. Okay, let's go one at a time. When you're doing these, remember each problem is each part of this term basically is its own separate problem. So we want to look at the coefficients first. I got 3 minus 5, 5 to the negative 2. I've got 3 minus 5 on the x. That is x to the negative 2. And then I've got 3 minus negative 5. Let's look at that a little closer. If I've got 3 minus negative 5, what happens with those when you got two negatives together? It become plus. You keep it, change it, change it. That is 3 plus 5, which is y to the 8th. Okay, you got to watch your signs when you're subtracting. The 5 and the x go to the bottom. The y8 stays on top, so we get y8 over 5 squared. I should have made that 25 x squared. So I would just basically change this to 25x squared. Should have done that before I wrote that down. So y8 over 25x squared. Okay, look at the next one. Then we'll bring these up. Let's see. Yeah, I lost my pen there for a second and made a weird mark. Okay, let's bring this up a little bit and clear the page. There we go. Okay, so look at the x's first. I'm just focused on, that is a 1 for an exponent there. Okay, 3 minus 1 is 2, so I've got x2. I've got negative 5 minus negative 2. Okay, minus negative 2. There's a minus sign between those, so that becomes plus 2. And that gives me a negative 3, so it's y negative 3. I'm going to go ahead and put it on the bottom as y3. Okay, just like that. z1 over z1, 1 minus 1 is z0, and that equals 1, and I really don't have to write it. So I get x2 over y3. Okay, two more for this clip. We have 18 over 16 here, so I can't divide this because it's not going to give me a whole number, but I can certainly reduce it. So I'm going to divide by 2 and get 9 over 8. Okay, 9 over 8. Then let's look at the x's. I've got negative 3 minus 5. Okay, negative 3 and a negative 5 give me negative 8. So x negative 8 goes on the bottom as x8. Okay, go ahead and stick it down there. 7 for the y's, you get 7 minus negative 1, which is 7 plus 1. That's going to be y8 on top because it's positive 8. And then I have a negative, these do not cancel. That's not 0. It is negative 3 minus 3, which is negative 6. Z negative 6 goes on the bottom as Z6. And that is our answer, 9y8 over 8, x8, Z6. 8x8, Z6. Okay, last one of this section. We're going to go ahead and multiply these. So multiply the coefficients. And on top we get 6x4, y2. On the bottom we get 48, x6, y negative 2. Now we're not done yet. We just basically cleared the parentheses here. Okay, so we're going to reduce first. I'm going to look at the numbers first. Just the number, 6 over 48, I divide by 6. I get 1 over 8. 1 over 8. Okay, 4 minus 6 on the x's. 4 minus 6 is negative 2. That means put it on the bottom. x2. 2 minus negative 2 looks like that. 2 plus 2. Okay, minus negative becomes plus. That is 4. y4 goes on the top. And that is simply simplifying rational numbers with exponents. The third set of examples we have deal with scientific notation. And when we are dividing scientific notation, we subtract exponents and we divide numbers. Subtract exponents and divide numbers. I gave us some really easy ones to do here. So 4.8 divided by 1.2, that's like 48 divided by 12, which is just 4. Okay, so I get 4 there, multiplication sign, power of 10. 5 minus 3 is 2. This number is between 1 and 10, greater than or equal to 1, less than 10, so we are good. This is a good answer here. Go to number 2. 4.5 divided by 5. Well, 5 times 9 is 45. So 5 times 0.9 is 4.5. So we're going to go 0.9 times 10 to the negative 5. 3 minus 8 is negative 5. We've got to fix this. Make it bigger. Make that smaller. Negative 6. Okay? We should be well used to doing that, fixing it. Okay, 1.1, 5.5, divide 5.5 by 1, that's 55 divided by 11. It is just 5. Okay, times 10. Now we got negatives and we're subtracting. You got to watch that. Negative 2 minus negative 5 becomes negative 2 plus 5, and that is a 3. That is a 3. Okay. 5.6 divided by 7. Well, 7 times 8 is 56. So 7 times 0.8 is 5.6. So that's going to be 0.8, 0.8, times 10. 3 minus negative 8. Let's look at that. 3 minus negative 8 becomes 3 plus 8. 8, 9, 10, 11. That is to the 11th power. That's too small. Make it bigger. And make that smaller. 10 to the 10th. That pretty much sums up scientific notation problems. Okay, we're going to finish this out with the fourth set of examples. We're going to go kind of easy to difficult in this grouping. And this is the last set of examples we're going to do. So the first one, it's 2 to the 5th, 2 over 5 squared. So again, distribute the 2 to both the top and the bottom. That's 2 squared over 5 squared, so I get 4 over 25. Okay, 4 over 25. Here you get 3 to the 5th over x to the 5th. 3 to the 5th over x to the 5th, and I think that's going to be 243 over x5. 243 over, that's a 5. It's kind of hard to tell. That's a 5. Okay, here we're going to distribute the 3 inside on everything. So let me just show you what that looks like. That looks like 2 to the 3rd. Let me go ahead and just put what 2 to the 3rd is. Okay, so put it on this one. That's going to be 2 times 2 is 4 times 2 is 8. Put it on the x, that's x to the 3rd. Put it on the y, that's y to the 3rd. And put it on the z, that is z to the 3rd. Okay, and that one's done. Pretty simple. Okay, this one, we're going to distribute it. We get 3 to the negative 3. We get x to the negative 3. We get 4 to the negative 3, and we get y to the negative 3. Okay, these basically change places, so the everything just switches. Okay, the top goes to the bottom because they're both negative. The bottom goes to the top. So we're going to rewrite it, and 4 to the 3rd is going to be 64. Y3 on the top. On the bottom, it's 27, and it's going to be x3. And we'll just leave this improper, and that's fine. We get y3 over x3. Okay. Next one, we have this raised to the negative 2. So let's do this individually. We got to first deal with the negative. It doesn't matter what this is. If I've got a 2 here, that means I've got 2 negatives together. You square, you get 2 negatives. That's a positive. So when I put that on that, that goes away. Don't have to worry about it. Okay. Okay, so I get 2 negative 2. And negative 2 times 1/2 is negative 1. So I get x negative 1 over, okay, negative 2 times 3/2 is negative 6/2, which is negative 3. So I get 3 negative 3. That's why I did 9, I don't know. 3 negative 3. And then I get y negative 4. Okay, now everything flips. This goes up top, that goes on bottom. So when I put that up there, 3 to the 3rd is 27. Y to the 4th right beside it. 2 squared is 4, and it's x1. 27 y4 over 4 x1. Okay, keep going. Okay, look at the negative here. I've got 3 of those things. That's going to give me a negative answer, so I've got to keep the negative. I'm going to put that there, so that's taken care of. Put that negative 3 on the 3, and that's that. Okay, negative 3 times 2/3 gives me negative 2. Negative 2. So I get x negative 2 over. Okay, get 5 to the 3rd. We'll put the negative 3 on that. You get negative 1. 5, negative 1, and you get y negative 9. Y negative 9. Negative 3 times 3. Okay, everything flips. I'll just keep the negative really goes in the middle. I'll put it there. You get 5 y9 on top. You get 3 to the third is 27. 27x2 on the bottom, and it is negative. Okay, let's keep going. I got a few more examples. We'll clear the page and move down a little bit. Hopefully getting some a little bit more difficult. Maybe not. We'll see. Okay. Here I've got, well, here's what I could do to make this a little simpler for myself. 8 over 16 is just 1/2. If I go ahead and reduce that, make that 1 over 2, it's going to be a bit easier. Okay, so I got 1 to the third, which is 1. X to the 2/3, which is x2. 2 to the third, which is 8. And then put the 3 on the x, that's x to the third. Okay, not done yet. I've got x's on top and bottom. 2 minus 3 is negative 1. When I get negative 1, that means put it on the bottom. So I subtract the exponents. So I've got 1 over 8, and I've got x1 on the bottom. Okay? If you notice, there's three x's down here. There's 2 x's up here. If you cancel them out, you get 1 x left down here. Okay? 1 over 8x. That made it a lot easier for us, reducing that. Okay, maybe it'll help to go ahead and put these together. You got 2 and a 1. That's a 3. That's x3 if you put those together. So x3 raised to the negative 2, it's x negative 6. X negative 6. I'm going to go and put that on the bottom as x6. Okay? Negative 2 times 5 is x negative 10. X negative 10. Well, that's going to go on the top because it's already on the bottom as x negative 10. You move it to the top, it's x10. Okay? 10 minus 6 is 4. x4. Okay? And we're done. Keep going. Negative 2 to the negative 2 is going to be, let's go ahead and just, I'll write it down like this first. There are a couple of ways you can do this. I'm just doing it this way. Negative 2 times 5 is negative 10. 3 to the negative 2 on the bottom, and x to the negative 18 when I multiply that. And notice all of this just flips. It just totally flips. So I get 9 x18 on the top. On the bottom, I get 4 x10. Still not done. 18, because you got x's on top and bottom, 18 minus 10 is 8. So 9x8 over 4. Okay, and that's it. That one's simplified. Okay, now the negative here is not, it's not like here where you have parentheses and it's on the outside. It's in the fraction. So this negative is just associated with this 1/3, and this negative is only associated with the 1/4. Okay? So the negative flips the fraction, and I cube it. So I flip it and cube it. If I flip this, I get 3 over 1. If I cube it, I get 27 over 1, which is 27. Okay, if I flip this and cube it, I get 4 over 1. 4 to the third is going to be 64. And that's our answer, 27 over 64. We've got 2 more to look at. Let me pull the sheet down just a little bit. And that's not much, but it'll do. Okay. Let me show you another way you can do this. If you want, and you want to get rid of the negative, it's not always feasible to do this, but if you want to get, if you got a negative on the outside of the parentheses, you can certainly flip it, everything over, just flip the whole thing over, and write it, that's an ugly 3. Okay, let's try this again. x3y over 3x to the third, y to the second, and that is now just squared. That kind of gets rid of the negative, and now you're just dealing with positive integers here. So we're going to distribute the 2, so I get x6. Remember, a power raised to a power, multiply. x6, it's y2 on the top. Okay, on the bottom here, I've got to distribute this power. So I've got a 3 here and a 3 here. Well, 3 to the third raised to the second is 3 to the sixth. Okay, 3 to the sixth. X to the third raised to the second is x to the sixth. And y2 raised to the second is y4. y4. Okay, if we really want to do this, let's see. 3 to the 6, you get 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. That's just 9 times 9 times 9, which is 81 times 9. That's 729. So if we really want to write this out simplified, x6, y2 over 729. Oh, forgot to do something. Hang on just a second. Let's back this up a little bit. Okay, we got x6 and x6. We can reduce these. 6 minus 6 is 0, so x to the 0 power is just 1. Okay, so right now I have 729 on the bottom. The x's cancel out. 2 minus 4 is negative 2. That means put the y on the bottom is y squared, and I just have a 1 left on top. Okay, one more. Let's clear this off and do this last one. Okay, no parentheses, so we're just going to look inside. 5 over 15 is just 1 over 3. Okay, let's start like that. Negative 3 minus 4 is negative 7. Negative 3 minus 4 is negative 7. That means put it on the bottom. That's x7 on the bottom. Okay. Here on the bottom, I'm going to have, when I multiply those, 3 times negative 3, I get negative 9. Okay, so 5 minus negative 9 becomes 5 plus 9. And that's going to be y14. And that's going to be on top because it's positive. I don't really need this 1 up here, so if I'm actually going to write it simplified, y14 over 3x7. And that takes care of our last set of examples.